welcome to our special feature on ET Now, the Economic Times Inspiring Business Leaders of India 2016. The event featured a spectacular lineup of speakers from across the country to acknowledge them for their individual contributions in their respective business fields. We were there to capture all the action.
My early days learning was when I started and did hobby in theatre. It was literally at that stage, English theatre, it was absolutely a hobby. But those early days taught me communication skills, gave me the confidence, and gave me the sense of how important it is to be collaborative. When you're sitting in front of an audience every Friday, Saturday, or Sunday night and performing to 1,000 people, that kind of confidence that it gave me at that very early stage in my life actually stood me in good stead. It also fine-tuned my communication skills. And over the next 20 years, I can only harp and sort of reiterate today that for being a leader or being a successful entrepreneur or leading 10 people or 1,000 people or 100,000 people cannot overemphasize the importance of communication and the art of communication and for you to being a communicator. And today when we're interacting with a lot of younger entrepreneurs, I urge them that if you're not a great communicator, find a co-founder it is. Because whether it is internally when you're going to interact with people and team members, or you're going to externally, whether it's with investors, possible shareholders, whatever, today in the 21st century, being a very strong communicator is, I think, one of the essential parts of being a great leader. The third thing I think at that stage in the early days that theatre taught me was the importance of being collaborative. And I know many of us have grown with family businesses and businesses with legacy businesses. But today, I think more than ever before, I think many of us grew up in an environment where it was a very competitive establishment. And part of the strategy was always kill the competition, and that's the way to necessarily win. I think the 21st century has changed all of that. And for the younger generation today, I think it is much more about being collaborative. Why reinvent something when somebody else is being able to actually pioneer something? And I think today in business and in leadership, that's going to be an important skill. Competition will always exist, but how collaborative can we be, I think is going to be an extremely strong growth engine for what we want to do.
What inspires me today, the only thing I can say is that I'm constantly striving to drive change. And this is driven by the fact that when I get up in the morning, I know something has changed from when I went to sleep the previous night. If you look at the travel industry, extremely dynamic, like any other industry, but technology seems to constantly drive change. And when I saw that I had to drive change, one of the first things that came to my mind was, instead of looking at short term, start looking at long term. And my advice to people as they look at their careers or they start their careers or are midway through their career, as I was when I hit this so-called midlife crisis, the first thing I looked around was to look at role models. And let me tell you, what I found was 1.3 billion role models out there, not knowing who to copy or not knowing who to look for inspiration. Very honestly, I don't think you can look outward for inspiration. I believe that you need to look inward. And when you're given a situation, you need to use that opportunity and move forward. A second important aspect which I found is that you need to manage people. The organization that I run today is approximately 5,700 people. I'm fortunate to have a management team that runs the day-to-day organization for the company. But the reality is, managing 5,700 people needs to be a passion, needs to be an inspiration. Instead of spending my day trying to address issues on a day-to-day basis, I actually spend a good part of my day-to-day meeting employees, talking to them, trying to understand what their problems are, trying to resolve issues that people have, because to me, their success is what will drive my success.
We had the opportunity to get up close and personal with some of the country's most inspiring business leaders. Here's a glimpse of the success and struggles that they faced along the way.
Sanjay Joshi is the chairman of Viking Ventures,
a company dealing in diverse range of businesses, ranging from hospitality to real estate and from fitness centers to health spas. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
So when we think Viking Ventures, many things come to mind. When I say many things, it could be anything from paper products, food, energy, vacation spots, real estate, infrastructure, so on and so forth. So this diversified business conglomerate, how did it get its start?
Well, I was always into the family business, when I started my learning as my career. At that time, for me, it was more like learning of how things work, whether it is marketing, distribution, or whether it was all about managing a company. From there on, I think I took my time and decided that I need to diversify into various fields. And, it's always good to have a focused approach, but I guess if you invest in the right kind of people and if you're able to manage the good quality of people, then you can develop and diversify into various fields. And that's what got me going.
Sure.
And then one by one, I started diversifying. And by now, more or less, we are running almost 9 different industries and doing quite well so far.
And these products across these separate verticals, they have very different shelf lives. For example, a fast-moving consumer good versus what someone might invest in a vacation destination.
Right.
Very different approach, mindset, consumers potentially. So how much of a challenge is it to sort of understand the customer and profile them so that you can be successful?
I think business is all about, about enjoying working in an environment what you enjoy the most. So for me, whenever I look at a business or I've picked up, whether it was entertainment space, whether it was real estate, whether it was alcohol that we've recently diversified, whether it was hospitality, for everything, I really enjoyed the experience of it. And because I come from an FMCG background initially, and I understand that really well, how to market a product or how to distribute it. That's where it became a combination of my passion towards things that I enjoy in doing in life and how to make it into a business and then develop it further. So that probably got me going, and I feel wherever you're working, if you don't enjoy working, then what's the fun in it? Absolutely. So that really decided for me the industries that I should pick and choose.
So given that these verticals vary so much, is there still sort of a thread of common business practices that you use across these 9 different sectors?
Yes,
segments?
I think it is very important, and culture building is very important in an organization. So keeping it intact and with the people who are heading various businesses for you, getting them on one platform, thinking in one single direction is a challenge. But as I said, if you invest in the right people, you can carry that forward.
Phenomenal. Well, we wish you continued success and thank you for sharing your time.
Thank you so much.
Amira Shah is the Managing Director and CEO of Metropolis Healthcare Limited, a multinational group of pathology centers. Thank you for joining us. So what's it like working at the intersection of healthcare and business? Are there competing priorities? What are the challenges?
I don't think they're really competing, to be honest. I think healthcare, we're all here finally to make healthcare more affordable, to make it more accessible for people across the country.
Sure.
And doing it as a business allows you to do it in a way that's professional, that's accountable, make profits, and we plow back those profits finally into creating more innovation for patients down the line. So I actually see it as very complementary. I don't believe things have to be done in a non-profit manner for it to work. We see ourselves making impact on millions of lives a year all across the emerging market space. I think it works beautifully, actually.
And what are some of the challenges that you face with respect to growth, expansion, so on and so forth?
So, healthcare covers a very small percentage of India today, and diagnostics, which is what Metropolis does, pathology labs, is even a smaller part. So I think there's ample growth. I don't worry too much about the growth as we move forward. There's a lot more lives in India that need access to good quality pathology.
Well, we appreciate all that you do and we wish you continued success.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Madam Grace Pinto, the Managing Director of Ryan Group, has been recognized for her extraordinary contribution towards the growth and development of high-quality education. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Initial question for you. Being an entrepreneur in the education sector, what sort of challenges does that pose for you?
First of all, I would like to thank my Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ, for this opportunity to be here and receiving the award today, knowing that God has kept something, a wonderful destiny for my life. And as we are moving ahead at Ryan Group, it is possible for Him to bestow blessings on me. And this is the work what we have taken up. We will carry forward with His blessings.
And so in the education sector, there's sometimes competing priorities. You see a lot of corporatization of the education sector. Yet, a priority continues to be the holistic development of children. How do you strike that right balance?
At Ryan's, we are always given the holistic approach and the growth of our children, their minds, their thinking skills, and also the initiative what has been taken up in our institution for each and every child, all-round development. Each one teach one, that is the slogan what we carry forward, and each child is very important for us. And looking at the competition in the market, we really feel there should be something special, that touching our children through values, teaching them values, how to honor their elders, how to honor their parents. Education means all-round development.
Absolutely. Now, earlier in your career, you were a teacher yourself. So how does that first-hand experience help you now that you're in a management role, overseeing, a larger educational institute with such a massive footprint?
As I started my career as a teacher, it was just 35 children in each class, and I had to look after their growth. Year after year, when these children were coming to my class, and the subjects, whatever I was teaching them, I had to cater only them, their growth, their initiative and their personal touch, what I have given importance, and also teaching them the real skills, how they should be independent when they grow, and how they should be confident to face the reality of life. And today, the place where I am, the hard work, God's favor, and the support from all the Ryan parents, entrusting their children in our hands, in our family, as we stand together, bonding with the Ryan children all over the nation, and giving them to my parents, the best what they have given to us, giving back to the society as a complete human being.
Absolutely. You've mentioned Ryan parents, Ryan children. There's a huge sense of community here. And with the Economic Times Inspiring Business Leaders of India, the goal is also to foster a community of entrepreneurship. How much and how should budding entrepreneurs leverage such communities to achieve success? Share your take.
See, unless and until you have vision, the passion what is required for your growth, looking forward with the determination to reach out to the needy in the society. And each child is born with talents. No one is lacking behind, but it is our duty at our institution. That is what we are striving, that each and every child should be made confident, and also to bring out the talents, the best of our ability, to put forward what is good in them and making them the future leaders of this nation.
Okay. Well, thank you for those inspiring words, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
It's time to take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our coverage of the Economic Times Inspiring Business Leaders of India 2016. Here's our tete-a-tete with some of the country's brightest entrepreneurial minds.
Sandeep Somani, who brings nearly 3 decades of work experience in the ceramics and glass industry, is the managing director of Hindware.
Managing Director of Hindware, Mr. Sandeep Somani now joins us.
Thank you.
Let's dive right in. So, Hindware is originally known bathroom product design. But today's customer is very plugged in, discerning, knowledgeable. How do you keep up with the demands of such a customer?
We actually not only have to keep up with the demands of such a customer, we actually have to anticipate such demands much ahead of schedule. The customer is continuously evolving today and is much more mature today than what they were, let's say, even 10 years ago. They expect their bathroom, their space in the world where they are alone,
Right.
at peace with themselves,
Sure.
to be a more and more relaxing place. And therefore, there's a lot of technology that has gone into our industry to make sure that products not only improve from a functional point of view, but they're highly aesthetic driven. They look nice, they feel nice, they impart a lot of new features which consumers had not even thought of or could have dreamed of a few years ago.
Innovation in this niche product segment is still remarkable. Perhaps something that not the ordinary consumer has that much insight into.
True. There's a lot happening in our space. We've been the leaders in terms of technology. So our products, you'll be surprised to know many of them now use radar. They use infrared technology.
Infrared?
Yeah, they use Bluetooth technology. We've just launched a shower which you can have music. You can listen to music in your shower. And you can also, if you're that busy, attend phone calls from the shower itself.
Not a moment goes to waste, huh?
True, absolutely. So there's a lot of evolution of technology, and we also are making a lot of effort in making sure that we use the environment, we save the environment, and we use less of water. Our products use water. So we're working extensively in terms of reducing the consumption of water, and more of our loos are actually saving a great deal of water. Some of our products can now save 150,000 liters of water per product.
Phenomenal.
So that's a immediate impact on the environment.
So that's there's a cost-saving angle to that, but also a larger preservation angle to that as well. Absolutely. Lovely. So let's talk about the competitive landscape for a minute. With innovation being so rampant, how difficult is it to stay competitive?
In India, staying competitive is always a challenge. Mostly materials, labor, fuel, they are all on the upwards moves, barring times like this when the fuel is at a world low. But I think what we need to make sure is that we stay competitive in the long run. We need to make sure we have efficient factories producing at world-class products at efficient costs. So we are much better than, let's say, the Europeans on the cost. We also need to make sure that we put in technology which de-risks us from labor, because ultimately India is cheap labor today, but it will not remain like this forever. Costs in India will go up. People are aspiring for better lifestyles. They need a better lifestyle to support their family, their children. So ultimately the costs will go up, and we need to make sure that with the increased costs of people, we remain competitive. There are many countries in the world, as the costs went up, their products became uncompetitive. So we make sure our plants now use robots. For such a mundane industry as ours, we use robots doing work. We use very high-tech equipment to make sure that we get precision, we get efficiency.
Well, another question for you here. So when we talk about the competitive landscape, right? What I've also noticed is that you've expanded into parallel business segments. For example, Evoke. It's a retail chain with presence all over the country. So how much of this expansion from traditional bathroom product design to now a retail outlet that has a presence pan-India, how much of that has been intentional versus simply organic?
So we've grown both organically, which is what we call greenfield. We've grown brownfield, which is expanding on existing sites, and we've been very acquisitive. Of the company's total 9 plants in India today, only 2 were put up greenfield. Everything else has been acquired. So we have a very good balance sheet. We make sure that we spot the opportunities, and where we believe that there is value to be made and value to be created in the long term, we don't hesitate in putting our money where our mouth is. And we go out and either acquire businesses, or we get into those businesses and make sure that we stay the path to make sure that we are among the top 3 players in any business whenever we enter.
Thank you for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you very much.
We look forward to continuing the conversation in the future.
Thank you very much.
Siddharth Roy Kapoor is an entertainment entrepreneur who is the managing director of Walt Disney Company India.
And now we're joined by the man himself, Mr. Siddharth Roy Kapoor, the managing director of Walt Disney Company India. Thank you, Mr. Kapoor.
Thank you.
Quick question for you. You're an inspiring business leader, but who do you draw your inspiration from?
I draw my inspiration actually from the colleagues that I work with. I work with some very, very talented individuals, and I think the most important thing for a leader is to really listen to the people around him and to be able to imbibe the best qualities that they have and to be able to make them the best version of who they can be. So I think I'm inspired by the people I work with.
And an evening such as this, the platform to bring entrepreneurs together, have them rub shoulders, and hopefully take their career to the next path. How effective do you consider these?
I think these are very interesting forums for people to be able to exchange ideas, to understand, best thoughts, to get inspired by probably the learnings of the people who come to speak at these forums. So I think it's always nice in our busy schedules to take some time to just sit back and muse on what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we can do it better.
Absolutely. Now, people say business is personal because business is sort of the structure of relationships to take things to the next level. What do you think have been key sort of contributors to your personal and professional success?
I think passion for what I do. I think that's really the most important thing for all of us, to really be completely consumed and driven by what we've chosen to make our lives work. And if that doesn't exist, then I dare say you'll find it very difficult to be able to function as a professional who's completely driven by and consumed by what you're doing.
Thank you for sharing those words and for your time. We wish you continued success.
Thank you. Most welcome.
Sanjay Godawat is the founder of Sanjay Godawat Group, a strategically diversified conglomerate with ever-growing presence in sectors most relevant to the country's economic development.
Good evening. So you have what many would describe as a strategically diversified conglomerate. That's not easy to do. From mining, real estate, offsetting logistic costs across every vertical you approach. What's sort of been the underlying mantra behind this expansion?
Only hard work, dedication, devotion, and determination. That was my principle. And as per the saying, that don't put all eggs in one basket.
You certainly haven't done that.
Yeah.
There's a mining business that you have, complete control over. There's realty, there's infrastructure. Yeah. And here you've taken a look at a few key trends, whether it's the cost or availability of manpower, or the cost of land. And you've sort of found the ideal combination to get viable businesses off the ground. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Was that your thought process behind the expansion?
Yes. Generally, we have done the development in rural areas like 2-tier, 3-tier cities. And most of the population of India is from 2-tier or 3-tier cities or interior of India. So I want to develop these areas because everybody is doing in metros or big cities. So my idea is that to give back to society and where I am born and brought up. So I started my education institute also there. And so it's doing very well. Now 11,000 students are there. So we want to develop these areas.
Yeah, the tagline for your group is enhancing lives globally. Yeah. So walk us through some ways in which that happens and you achieve it.
Yes.
There's sort of a energy conservation to this. There's a water preservation angle. There's an educational component.
Yes.
So are these just natural byproducts of how you do business, or did you go about it in a very conscious way that these are things you wanted to achieve?
Because in coming future, there will be a scarcity for water and for clean air also.
Right.
So we want to conserve that.
And you've made that a fundamental part of how you do business.
Yes.
Right. So
I got Vanashri Puraskar for that from Maharashtra government also. For a plantation of 2 lakh plants, more than 2 lakh plants.
Right. Teak trees all over the country, pan-India, is that right?
Yes.
Right. Lovely. And these other initiatives, they just happen to really dovetail very nicely with your business interests.
Yes.
So that's a great combination you've got there.
Yes.
Now, who've been some of your mentors in your entrepreneurial journey and How do they help you maybe face challenges that you may have encountered in your career?
All leaders who develop their career from scratch, they are my mentors and my idols.
Lovely, and they've inspired you.
Yes, because I have started my journey from scratch. In 92, my capital was merely 3 lakh rupees. So from that, I have developed my empire.
Very humble beginnings then for you.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your time and
you.
insights with us.
Thank you.
Sudhakar Adopo is the founder and CEO of Talent Vouch, a referral-driven hiring platform.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So identifying manpower is considered to be one of the toughest challenges in today's business environment. How does your company help with that?
So recruitment anywhere across the globe, not just in India, is completely broke. In the first era, recruitment 1.0 is the job boards that came up way back about 20 years ago, and then the next wave that came in manpower recruitment is probably LinkedIn's of the world. But nothing really changed, after that. So I think what we are trying to do at Talent Vouch is probably, I would call it the recruitment 3.0, the new version that can be a disruptor, in the recruitment sector across the globe, not just in India. Sure. So we are building a global company out of India.
Absolutely. And in today's social media savvy environment, how much do you think social media platforms play a role with identifying the right candidate for the job? How relevant are they?
I think social media, as you call it, is a double-edged sword. Where when people are leaving their social footprints all across the globe, there is another problem with that. We are inundated with data. Right. Now you have mammoth data that is there, which makes it impossible or probably very difficult to actually get to the right candidate or identify a right person, because you have phenomenal amount of data which is there. So what we really need is intelligence to go through that data and bring in competencies in identifying the right talent and probably wooing a passive candidate as well. So that's the challenge that currently we are facing with.
Absolutely. And technically you have two customers. There's the company that's trying to fulfill its hiring needs, and then there are the job seekers. They also need to be able to look at your platform and consider it to be a viable one. So how do you appeal to that group, the job seekers?
What we are trying to do is build a bridge between the companies as well as the candidates. So I really don't see them as customers or so. So when you are trying to bridge that gap, you are providing a medium for them to communicate. So none of them are your customer and both of them are your customers.
So you're a facilitator, essentially.
Yes, that's essentially what we try and do that.
And we wish you continued success.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned to ET Now for more coverage of the Economic Times Inspiring Business Leaders of India 2016. Welcome to the Economic Times Inspiring Business Leaders of India 2016. Now, here are glimpses of the Felicitation Ceremony.
Ronnie Screwwala will be doing the honors for our first set of felicitations. And let's have a round of applause for Mr. Aditya Puri, Managing Director, HDFC Bank. May I please invite Mr. Shashidhar Jagdishan to please come on stage to collect the trophy on behalf of Mr. Aditya Puri. So we have Mr. Jagdishan's colleague, in fact, to collect the trophy on behalf. Well, our next inspiring leader to have made it to the list is Amira Shah, Managing Director and CEO, Metropolis Healthcare. And let's have a round of applause for the Managing Director of Classic Marble, Mr. Amit Shah. Well, it's time to also announce our next inspiring leader, the Chairman of Mahindra Group, Mr. Anand Mahindra. May I please invite Ms. Varsha Chainani, who's a Senior Vice President, Group Communications, to please come on stage to collect the trophy and certificate on behalf of Mr. Anand Mahindra. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a round of applause as I invite Mr. Ashish Raheja, Managing Director, Raheja Universal. Let's move forward and invite Mr. Gagan Banga, the Vice Chairman and Managing Director, India Bulls Housing Finance Limited. If I may invite Mr. Rahat Ahmed, who's the Head Marketing and Communication, to please come on stage and receive the trophy on behalf of Mr. Gagan Bangal. Moving on to our next inspiring leader to have made it to the list is Harshbina Zaveri, Managing Director, NRB Bearings. If I may please invite Mr. Arvinder Kohli, who's the Vice President of the Manufacturing with the company, to please come on stage and receive the trophy and certificate on behalf of Harshbina Zaveri. We'd also like to invite Mr. Jayesh B. Desai, Group Chairman Schmitten. However, I'd like to invite Mr. Shailesh Khurana, the CEO Rajhans, to please come on stage and receive the trophy and certificate on behalf of Mr. Jayesh B. Desai. Well, our next successful leader to have been featured in our upcoming coffee table book, Leena Usher, founder, Kangaroo Kids. Let's have a huge round of cheer. Well, let's continue that round of applause with that enthusiasm, and let's invite on stage Madam Grace Pinto, Managing Director, Ryan International Group of Institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, the next very inspiring name, let's have a huge round of applause for the Managing Director of Hiranandani Group, Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani. Well, moving on to our next inspiring leader, Nishi Vasudeva, Chairman and Managing Director, HPCL. If I may please invite Mr. K.S. Shetty, the Head HR and Marketing, to please collect the trophy and certificate on her behalf. Ladies and gentlemen, let's also have a round of applause for Mr. Parag Cheda, Joint Managing Director, Prince Pipes and Fittings. If I may please invite Mr. Jayant Cheda, who's the Chairman and Managing Director, to please come on stage and receive the trophy and certificate on behalf of Mr. Parag. Well, before we march ahead with the next round of felicitations, thank you very much, sir, for doing the honors. And on that note, I'd now like to invite Mr. Deepak Lamba to please come on stage, and may I also invite Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani to please come forward to present the next round of honors as well. Ladies and gentlemen, let's march ahead and let's keep that enthusiasm going. Let's invite Mr. Rahul Saraf, Managing Director, Forum Projects. May I also invite Mr. Raman Mittal, Executive Director, Sonalika ITL. Moving on to our next very, very inspiring name indeed, Mr. Rana Kapoor, Managing Director and CEO, Yes Bank. If I may please invite Mr. Karan Ahluwalia, the Senior President, Corporate Banking with Yes Bank, to please come on stage and receive the honor on behalf of Mr. Rana Kapoor. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to have a huge round of applause as we invite on stage Mr. Roni Screwwala, Founder, Unilaser Ventures, to please come on stage. Well, moving on to our next inspiring name, having to be featured in the list, Rubal Jain, Managing Director, Safe Express. If I may please invite Mr. Charan, the Business Head of Safe Express, to please come on stage and receive the honor on behalf of Rubal Jain. Let's have a round of applause as we invite on stage Mr. Sachin J. Joshi, Chairman, Viking Ventures, Viking Media and Entertainment. Well, the inspiring list continues as we now invite Mr. Sajan Jindal, Chairman and Managing Director, JSW. May I please invite Mr. Seshagiri Rao, Joint Managing Director and Group CFO of JSW. All right, so let's march ahead and invite on stage Mr. Sandeep Engineer, Managing Director, Astral Pipes. A warm round of applause. Let's invite on stage Mr. Sandeep Somani, Managing Director, Hindware. Let's now invite on stage Mr. Sanjay Godawat, founder and chairman of Sanjay Godawat Group. Let's have a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Let's invite on stage Shona Chauhan Saluja, CEO Powai Agro. Well, it's now time to invite on stage a very pioneering name again, the Managing Director of Disney India. Let's have a huge round of applause for Mr. Siddharth Roy Kapoor. Ladies and gentlemen, may I also invite Sudhakar Adopo, founder and CEO, Talent Vouch. Time to also invite our next inspiring name here, the Managing Director of Eureka Forbes. Let's invite Mr. Suresh Goklani to please come on stage. Ahead to invite on stage Suresh Kaswala and Amod Katiyar, directors of BlackBerry, to please come on the stage. So with that, we come to the end of the round of honors and felicitations. Thank you very much, Mr. Hiranandani, and thank you very much, Mr. Lamba, for doing the honors as well.
Now that the felicitation ceremony has come to a close, here are some moments of our conversation with the stalwart entrepreneurs.
Rahul Saraf is the managing director of real estate developer Forum Group. Coined the Mall Man of the East, he is responsible for bringing Calcutta its first shopping mall.
Thank you, Mr.
Sure.
Question for you. So your career started off with you ushering in a real estate revolution in Calcutta. But since then, times have changed, and so have you. You've continually reinvented yourself. Walk us through your journey.
Well, I think one of the differentiators has been that, fresh out of college, when I was asked to look after the real estate business of the family, the whole intention was to build, to own the asset, and to put it on rent. So it was a build and lease rather than build and sell. Very quickly we realized that if we are to build assets for ourselves, then these assets should be futuristic. They should be able to live with time. That, I think, has been a very, very critical learning curve for me in the very early days in life. We were fortunate enough to look at the green building revolution that was hitting the world. And the first LEED certified green building was done by us in India. Subsequently, under the UNFCCC protocol, these buildings were declared as CDM projects, entitled to earn carbon credits.
Right.
And we ended up becoming the first building in the world to earn carbon credits. A lot of people know us for the mall that we've built in Calcutta. People associate me more with the retail developments that we've done. But in my heart, the green building that we built and the IT park that we did was one of the most foundation-laying sort of projects for us as a group.
Some of your landmark achievements.
Some of the achievements. Currently, we're doing a very interesting project in Calcutta. It's called Atmosphere.
It's a high-end luxury living project.
It's a luxury living project, but the whole intention was that can we create an icon for a city? Now, in today's globalized world, every city needs to have a new icon for itself, which is a replica of its economic prowess.
Well, let's talk a bit more about that, about you pioneering new projects. You are known on record to have said that you would rather build the first Mercedes than accessorize a Fiat.
Sure.
What does that quote mean? Explain that to us.
We've been fortunate enough to have done things differently, which has become sort of a stepping stone for the industry to follow, which has led to a paradigm. Developers have started looking at that. For instance, we are now in Mumbai.
Right, BKC.
BKC, and we have a project in Chembur. Our first phase of BKC is a residential project which is already underway. But we took a pause on the projects and we said, how can we be different? And I have personally been driving, a new concept of a home, which we hope to launch either in Chembur or in the next phase of BKC. And we we are quite confident that once we launch those homes, internally we say Mumbai homes will never be the same again.
Well, Mr. Saraf, you brought the country one of its first shopping malls, and since then, it's been all the way to the moon and back for you. We've certainly enjoyed following your career, and we wish you continued success.
Thank you, Pooja.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And on that note, we'll slip into a short break. We'll catch you on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to our coverage of the Economic Times Inspiring Business Leaders of India 2016. Here's our tete-a-tete with some of the country's brightest entrepreneurial minds.
Raman Mittal is the Executive Director of Sonalika International Tractors, one of the leading manufacturers of farming and utility vehicles in the country.
Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
An initial question for you. You started off as a purely Indian tractor manufacturer. Now your products are available in over 100 countries. That international expansion, how difficult was that? And how did it come about?
See, for us, it's all about challenges. It's the challenges which really excite us, which really fuel us to do and to propel us every single day of our life. And it was an impossible challenge to think of, that an Indian OEM to start selling in Europe, to start selling in US, to start selling all over the world, that too a tractor, which is a very localized, to the customer, to a specific need, built to order kind of equipment.
Absolutely.
And there is, in automotive, there's a global platform. It's easy to figure out. In tractors, there's nothing which is a global platform. You have to build for each country. So this challenge was a huge challenge. And since we do our own engines, we do our own transmissions, we do our own sheet metal, we have a strong engineering base. We felt that we will be able to customize, we'll be able to offer products suiting to each country's need, rather than putting a generic product together.
Right. And I think what many people may not be aware of is you produce tailor-made custom products as well. So it's not just a run-of-the-mill model tractor. You do attend and appeal to customer needs frequently. And what % of your orders are custom solutions versus something off the rack?
Oh, I would say we have more than 500 variants in domestic alone. And export
500.
And exports would have another 400 to 500 variants. And looking at how emissions are working globally, now we're looking at CID technology with our engines. We're looking at transmissions which are ranging from 8 speed to 24 speed to 36 speed. It's a huge list. And I think managing this complexity has been our core strength from day one. And we find it comfortable. I think the more complexity it is, somehow it feels more comfortable for us to solve out. So I think this is the core way we look at it.
Well, thank you for sharing your insights with us.
Leena Usher, chairperson of Kangaroo Kids, a global pioneer in children's education, is recognized as one of the top leaders currently redefining Indian education.
Thank you for joining us. So you're an entrepreneur in the education sector. One would think there may be competing priorities or challenges that you have to balance. What's your experience like with that?
There are a lot of challenges for me personally, because I actually shifted base from Australia to India. So I have challenges around normal stuff we all have challenges with, like traffic and pollution and things like that. But also settling into the system in India, learning how to navigate everything, and not being from a business background, not having done any business management, etc., etc. It's more an influencing journey rather than a chairperson journey.
Sure. You sort of identified a need. You thought you had the talent and the experience to tackle it, and it brought you over, and you've been at it ever since.
Yeah, interestingly, years ago, Kiran More, who's a cricketer, actually met me in Australia, and it was after I'd done a stint of teaching here, just on holiday. And he said to me, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to change the face of education in India," because at that point in time it was completely conventional, completely rote-based. And he said, "How are you going to do that?" I said, "I don't know, but I just know if I have the idea, somehow the dots will connect and it'll all happen." And that's exactly what happened. And I think it was just about creating an education system, and we're recreating one now today, because again, if you look at where the world's going to be 20 years from now, we all know it's going to be very, very different to what it looks like today. So I think even what we did 20 years ago, we're sort of doing now, questioning the status quo of what we've built up in our schools, and saying, 20 years from today is going to look so different that if we don't get kids geared and ready for that, we're not doing our job.
Well, we congratulate you on finding your way in this market space, and we wish you continued success.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Niranjan Hiranandani is the Managing Director of Hiranandani Group, a leading player in the real estate business.
Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
So first question for you. When it comes to patience in business, back in 1985, you purchased 250 acres of land in Powai. Could you ever have anticipated it become the success that it has?
No, I don't think I imagined it would be the kind of success we had, but I certainly wanted a large canvas. Earlier to that, we made individual buildings and smaller enterprises, and I was constantly dissatisfied with what I made, though I made great buildings, but I think the atmosphere was not right. But when I got Powai, I really wanted to have a large canvas so that I could paint my own landscape, not only the buildings. So I think I succeeded in terms of creating something I wanted, but I didn't imagine that the success would be as bright as it has been.
Well, thank you for those words, and thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap for now, but stay tuned to ET Now for more coverage of the Economic Times Inspiring Business Leaders of India 2016.